All right, here we are. For 19 installments, we've gone deep into the world of RF propagation. Today, in our final segment, we're going to bring it all home. We're going to boil this huge topic down to its most critical takeaways and really uncover what gives a professional that decisive edge. Let's get to it. And just as a quick reminder, this is it, the capstone, part 20 of our 20-part series. And all this great info comes directly from that comprehensive report on radio frequency propagation by the experts over at RFI Detectives, who are part of Virtualization Options LLC. The team at RFI Detectives really laid the groundwork for this entire series. So now, in this final chapter, we're zeroing in on the absolute core principles. We're going to recap our journey across the spectrum, talk about why this knowledge is so darn important, and then look at what it really takes to stay on top of your game. So let's just take a beat and appreciate how much ground we've actually covered. I mean, this has been a real journey, right? All the way from the surface of the Earth to the very edge of space. We kicked things off way down in the medium frequency bands, from about 500 kilohertz up to around 3 megahertz, talking about ground waves. Remember how amazing they are? The way they literally hug the curve of the Earth, which makes things like long-distance AM radio and marine communications even possible. And then we cranked it up into the HF bands and explored the, frankly, magical world of skywave propagation. We saw how these signals can literally bounce off the ionosphere, letting you talk to someone on the complete other side of the planet. Just incredible. And we wrapped up our tour way up in the higher frequencies, above 30 megahertz, where line of sight is king. We dug into the kind of precision you need for those microwave links, threading a needle between two hilltops miles apart. What a trip it's been. Okay, so let's pivot now, because this leads us to what is maybe the most important point of the entire series. Why does all this theory matter in your day-to-day? Well, it's about turning all this knowledge from just ideas into your core professional mandate. And let's be crystal clear about this, because the source material really hammers this home. None of what we've talked about is just for a textbook or some exam. This is not an academic exercise, not at all. So here's the bottom line. This knowledge is the foundation. It's the concrete slab you stand on every single time you design a system or tackle a problem. Everything, and I mean everything, is built on top of this. And this right here, this really crystallizes that idea perfectly. Every single one of these tasks, every antenna you put up, every frequency you assign, every link budget you crunch the numbers on, and maybe most importantly, every single tough troubleshooting diagnosis you have to make, it all comes back to having a solid, almost intuitive grasp of propagation. Which brings us to what it's really like to be an engineer in the field. See, the equipment, the math, the models, those are the things we can control. But the real art, the thing that separates the good from the great in RF engineering, is mastering the variables that are completely out of our hands. So let me just ask you this. What is that one massive, ever-changing variable that you have absolutely zero control over, but that you have to understand inside and out if you're going to succeed? And there it is. The source material just puts it perfectly. The ionosphere is a living, breathing system driven by a star we cannot control. The RF engineer's job is to understand it well enough to work with it. That right there, that's the whole game. So, if we know we're dealing with this incredibly dynamic environment, what does that mean for us as professionals? It means one thing, really. The learning can never, ever stop. Let's talk about that path forward. The science of propagation isn't some old, dusty textbook. It is an active, evolving field. There are new models being developed, our understanding of space weather gets deeper every year, and new tech creates brand new challenges. Staying on top of all that, well, it means you have to be committed to always be learning. And to help with that, the RFI Detectives report points to these essential resources. For the official models and standards, your Bible is the ITU RP series. If you want to know what's happening right now, the NOAA Space Weather Center is absolutely indispensable. Planning an HF circuit, VOACAP is your best friend. For that rock-solid, practical, in-the-trenches knowledge, the ARRL handbook is a classic for a reason. And if you want to see what's coming over the horizon, you need to be reading the journals from IET and IEEE. And all of this brings us to the final and, I think, most important takeaway of this entire series. After all the physics, all the models, all the theory, it really just comes down to one single thing. This is it. You could boil down this whole 20-part explainer into this one sentence. The engineer who makes it a daily habit to check on the sun and the ionosphere with the same focus they give their spectrum analyzer, that's the engineer who will always have the decisive edge. It's the difference between reacting to problems and actually anticipating them. So, as we close this out, I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Armed with this foundational knowledge, with this commitment to keep learning, and this deep understanding of the variables at play, where will your decisive edge make the difference tomorrow?